The child wasn't supposed to survive. That's what the medical consensus across 3 planetary coalitions agreed upon. The Zenthari High Council had exhausted its resources, the Glarn Medici had declared it a statistical anomaly unworthy of investment, and even the Sinther Collective, known for saving beings fused with collapsing stars, had finally whispered the universal code for giving up: status terminal, return to entropy. The child, code-named SIV-23, was born on Vorthan Prime, a war-torn colony caught in the aftermath of a black hole mining disaster. Her body was a mosaic of broken genetics, hybrid DNA segments malformed from cosmic radiation, irregular neurofibers woven with errors, a circulatory system that pulsed at uneven rhythms. She was part Tharnic, part Zev, and part something that didn't match any database. Her skin glowed faint violet under solar exposure, her eyes reflected ultraviolet spectrums, and her heartbeat didn't respond to nanomedic protocols. So they left her, placed in stasis cryo, tagged with a passive identifier, filed under merciful expiry, until she arrived. Earth had joined the Intergalactic Care Network just 17 Earth years ago. Known mostly for their chaotic politics and over-reliance on caffeine, humans weren't considered particularly advanced. But what they were known for, almost mythologically now, was their absurd, irrational compassion. It was in that spirit that Marla Jensen, a foster caretaker from Colorado Sector, filed an override claim under Earth's Care Mandate 8, no sentient left behind. And with that, the system reluctantly released the child into her custody. When the med drones delivered SIV-23 to the foster orbit hub, the other alien nurses exchanged looks of pity. "She will last 3 cycles at best," one clicked softly in translated clickspeak. "She won't," Marla said with the firm, unshakable voice of a woman who had already raised 4 foster kids across 3 species, one of whom had fire for blood. Back on Earth, the first thing Marla did was rip off the SimScan monitors. The house nestled between snow-capped Rockies, distant pine trees whispering old winds, and warmth that didn't come from environmental regulators but from actual burning wood in an antique fireplace. SIV-23 didn't speak for the first week. Her body convulsed nightly. Her cries were soundless, a mutation in her vocal cords, and only the vibration sensors in Marla's room alerted her that the girl needed her. She would sit beside the biobed, whispering lullabies from Earth's old world, songs passed down before interstellar travel was a dream, before mankind knew aliens existed, let alone their children. "You're not dying here," she said once, wrapping the trembling child in a heated blanket and feeding her spoonfuls of homemade marrow broth. "Not on my damn watch." 2 weeks in, strange things started happening. The violet hue on SIV-23's skin began to soften under the Earth's yellow sun. Her heartbeat, though still erratic, started syncing up when she was held against Marla's chest. Her neural spikes, once chaotic in scan reports, began forming identifiable patterns. Primitive ones, but patterns nonetheless. The Galactic Medical Board flagged Marla's case for review. They sent an Arvalon supervisor, a being made entirely of crystal and logic. He scanned SIV-23 from a safe distance, noted the girl's continued instability, and prepared the euthanization warrant, coded for humane termination with minimal suffering. Marla didn't even let him finish. "You come near this child with that needle, and I swear I'll break every single one of your damn crystal fingers." "You threaten a diplomatic official?" the Arvalon asked. "No," Marla smiled sweetly. "I'm promising." The warrant was withdrawn within the hour. Earth officials classified the case as cultural sensitivity zone. Basically, back off, humans doing weird human things. By week 5, SIV-23 finally said her first word. It wasn't a cry. It wasn't even a sound, exactly. She reached out and tapped 2 fingers to Marla's chest. "Ma." It was a simple sound. Half grunt, half whisper. But it wasn't random. It was intentional. Suddenly, every alien medical expert who had written her off scrambled back into the scene. The Sinther wanted neural samples. The Zenthari proposed studying Earth's emotional hormone emissions. The Glarn demanded visitation rights under the guise of scientific preservation. Marla told them all the same thing: no. By month 3, SIV-23 was walking. By month 6, she was laughing, a strange echoing chime that made birds fly off trees and sensors glitch on occasion. She would draw strange symbols in the dirt and speak in a hybrid language no one could quite identify. Some of the syntax resembled long-lost Xener dialects. Other parts matched old Earth's indigenous prayers. Marla taught her Earth stuff. How to make pancakes. How to plant tomatoes. How to jump rope and cuss when you stub your toe. HFY 23 soaked it all in. One night, as stars blazed bright and unfamiliar shapes danced across the sky, HFY 23 sat beside Marla, looked up, and said, "They said I was broken." "You're not," Marla replied without looking away from the stars. "You're just not done yet. But I'm not like them." "Good," Marla said. "Because them gave up. You didn't." HFY 23's smile was small, quiet, but behind her eyes, something awakened. And then she began to change. Not decay. Not destabilize. Evolve. She started dreaming things before they happened. She could pull heat from the air, twist matter in her fingers like soft clay. Marla once caught her levitating a book, not for fun, but because the pages whispered in languages no machine could translate. At 8 months Earth time, HFY 23 disappeared. Just gone. Cameras went blind. Satellites couldn't trace her. Marla filed a missing being report, but even Earth's defense AI said, "No anomaly detected. Probability, unknown." Then, 2 days later, she returned. Naked. Covered in symbols that pulsed with strange light. In her hand was a stone, older than any material carbon dated on Earth. And on her face was an expression no child should ever wear, understanding. "I found where I came from," she said. Marla looked at her, heart thudding. "And they're dying." Marla didn't ask who. She just said, "Then I guess we're going to help them." HFY 23 smiled. And the stars above flickered, not randomly, but in response. The next morning, the wind carried a different kind of silence across the valley. Marla was sipping coffee, real brewed beans, not the synth stuff, when HFY 23 came downstairs already dressed in boots, jacket, and a quiet resolve. She looked older somehow. Not in body, still lithe, still barely reaching Marla's shoulder, but in spirit. As if in those missing 48 hours, she'd lived entire lifetimes. "I have to go back," HFY said. Marla set the cup down slowly. "Back where?" HFY pointed upward, not vaguely to the sky, but to a specific cluster of stars near the Orion expanse. Her finger traced a symbol in the air, something too complex to be just coordinates. It looked alive. It shimmered and spun like code forged in dreams. "They're calling," she said. "And they're afraid." Marla didn't ask if she was scared. She knew the answer. Brave kids are rarely fearless, they just keep moving anyway. "I'll come with you," Marla said. HFY blinked. "You can't. Try me." Within hours, the house in the valley was shut down, its systems transferred to Earth's foster archive. Marla and HFY boarded an old shuttle she'd retrofitted herself, the Junebug, once a rescue vessel, now a home away from home. As the shuttle lifted off and passed beyond Earth's mesosphere, a soft pulse echoed from HFY's wrist. The stone she had returned with had activated. The coordinates it beamed out didn't match any known location. Not in human star charts. Not in the coalitions. Not even in the banned Seldari archives. That scared even the AI. "Unknown destination detected," it warned. "Probability of survival, 14%. Marla rolled her eyes. "Oh, shut up, we've done worse on a Tuesday." HFY grinned. It took 6 jumps through folded space, 2 near-fatal wormhole drifts, and 1 bypass through an abandoned derelict ringworld crawling with rogue tech leeches, but eventually they emerged into the orbit of a planet that shouldn't exist. It hung suspended in space, surrounded by a ring of dead stars. No light touched it, but it glowed faintly from within, like something alive trying not to wake up. HFY. "Where are we?" The girl's voice was almost a whisper. "My first home." As the shuttle descended, the planet revealed its scars. Massive craters scorched with blue fire, mountains cracked open like eggshells, and cities buried under vines of metallic thorns. "This was a cradle world once," HFY explained as they walked through the ruins. "A place where minds were grown, not born. But we were too hungry. Too fast. So we fell." Marla frowned. "Who's we?" I don't know the name. No one remembers. They erased it. Even from themselves. They reached what had once been a temple, if temples were made of living stone and shaped like infinite spirals. Inside, the air buzzed. Something was waiting. A pool of liquid light shimmered at the center. SIV approached, and without hesitation, stepped into it. Marla shouted, but her voice didn't reach her. SIV was already gone. Not dead. Transported. She awoke in a chamber of stars. Not metaphorical stars, actual ones, contained in glass orbs the size of marbles, floating in patterns that defied gravity and sense. Around her were tall beings of shifting shapes, like smoke with eyes. "We didn't think you would return," one said, voice echoing in thought rather than air. "You left me to die," SIV said calmly. "We didn't know you would live." She walked forward, unafraid. "I did. Because of her." The beings looked confused. Her. The human. My mother. The chamber rippled. They knew of humans, of course. Fragile creatures of meat and chaos. But something deeper flickered among them now. Curiosity. Maybe even guilt. "We require correction," one of them said. "We need your fracture to realign what we broke." SIV's eyes narrowed. "You mean, you want to use me?" "No. We wish for you to lead." Meanwhile, outside the temple, Marla had pulled a plasma rifle from the shuttle and was preparing to blow a hole through the spiral wall. That's when the temple opened, not with doors, but by shifting reality, and SIV stepped out, eyes glowing. "Okay," Marla said slowly. "So, did you find them?" "Yes. And?" "They want to fix what they broke." "Oh. That's nice. And let me guess, they want you to help." "No," SIV said, stepping forward. "They want us. Both of us." Marla blinked. "Why me?" "Because I told them the truth," SIV said, eyes soft now. "That when the galaxy gave up, you didn't. That when science failed, love didn't." Marla almost laughed, but didn't. Because the sky above was opening now, forming a map not of stars, but futures. Possibilities. Paths she couldn't begin to understand. And somewhere, beyond all logic and reason, humanity had just been invited into something much older, much greater. Not because of their technology or strength, but because one stubborn woman once said, "Not today." The Council of Light, those towering, shape-shifting beings who had once ruled forgotten galaxies, watched SIV and Marla descend the steps of the temple together. Something ancient stirred in their collective memory. Not awe, not fear, but a thing they hadn't felt in 1,000 star cycles. Hope. They had destroyed their world chasing perfection. Spliced their minds into machines, folded their atoms through time, edited compassion out of their evolution because it was inefficient. But they couldn't erase all of it. Some fragment had survived. And now, that fragment walked again, in the form of a child raised by a human heart. As the sunless skies shifted above them, the dead stars in orbit flickered one by one, not with fire, but with recognition. Back aboard the Junebug, Marla struggled to understand just how big this had become. "They want to rebuild everything?" she asked, leaning back against the warm hull while SIV traced constellations through the window with her finger. "Not just rebuild," SIV replied. "They want to atone." Marla exhaled sharply. "That's a big ask." SIV looked up at her. "They don't know how to start. But they listened. That's something." Behind them, the living planet began to respond to SIV's presence. The vines untangled. The scorched ground knit itself with bioluminescent moss. Ancient spires hummed back to life. Ghosts of the past, encoded in crystal memory and gravity fractures, slowly began unraveling their history to show the truth of what happened and what could be made right. But word got out. When the Galactic Council received reports that a lost precursor race was active again, and that a human had been named co-emissary, they lost their collective minds. Marla and SIV were summoned to Central Concord Station, a floating megastructure the size of Earth's moon, where the leaders of 100,000 species convened. Ambassadors whispered. Military advisors stared. The Synther brought drones. The Tralax brought translators. The humans, they brought coffee and sarcasm. "What exactly is she supposed to be?" the Glarn delegate spat, antennae twitching toward HFY. A half-dead hybrid child raised by an underqualified Earthwoman? Marla stepped forward, smiling politely. "I'm sorry," she said. "Did your entire advanced civilization ever get saved by a bedtime story, chicken soup, and a warm blanket?" "No." She patted HFY on the shoulder. "Well, mine did." The chamber fell into stunned silence. HFY stepped up beside her. She didn't look threatening. She looked alive, more than anyone else in that room. "You all thought I was a mistake. I'm not. I'm a mirror. You made me, all of you. Your science, your wars, your fears. But she made me human." Cameras caught every word. Broadcasts lit up the galaxies. The story of the girl who shouldn't have lived and the woman who refused to let her die spread faster than tachyon relays could keep up. Suddenly, HFY wasn't just a curiosity. She was a movement. Entire civilizations began questioning the rigidity of their systems. Planetary unions re-evaluated their acceptable loss policies. Even species that had long abandoned child-rearing as primitive began reinstituting foster programs modeled after Earth's. And Marla. She got letters. Thousands. From Zarnian hatchlings who wanted to be adopted. From single parents on mining colonies who needed hope. From sentient AI who wondered if they, too, could be loved. One message simply read, "Thank you for breaking the universe in the right direction." But with recognition came danger. There were those who benefited from a cold, emotionless galaxy. Who saw HFY as a disruption, not salvation. A shadow group known only as the Null Order issued a silent bounty. Bring the girl back, dead or broken. They sent mercenaries. Saboteurs. Mind leeches disguised as diplomats. Marla stopped the first attack by smacking a cloaked assassin with a cast-iron pan from her shuttle kitchen. HFY fried the second intruder's neural implants by singing in a frequency that hadn't been heard since the universe was young. But the third strike nearly worked. A biovirus, engineered specifically to target hybrid genomes, was released in a meeting chamber just as HFY was presenting to the Galactic Youth Initiative. Her body seized. Her veins lit up like cracked neon. The council panicked. Only Marla kept moving. She raced across the room, ignoring calls to stand down, and injected HFY with a compound she had developed herself, crafted not in a lab, but in her little kitchen, from garlic, crushed blackberries, and a purified enzyme she discovered in the moss on the living planet. It worked. Not instantly. Not perfectly. But HFY lived. And when she opened her eyes, she wasn't just alive. She was awake. Marla watched in awe as HFY rose, floating now, no longer bound by gravity. Her voice echoed across frequencies, across dimensions. Her mind stretched through subspace. She touched satellites, planets, people. She didn't speak. She resonated. She pointed to the stars above the station, and one by one, they shimmered. Then, she whispered, "It's time to fix what we broke." The council didn't vote. They stood. Unanimously. They named HFY the first unified healer, a title no one had ever held. And they gave Marla something even rarer. The key of trust. A symbol that allowed her access to any world, any system, any heart in need. Not because she was powerful, but because she believed, when no one else did. 5 years Earth time passed. The galaxy changed more in that time than it had in 1,000 cycles. They called it the Era of Restoration. Not because of any government, treaty, or technological breakthrough, but because a human woman with no military rank, no royal lineage, and no genetic enhancements chose to say, "Not today." HFY 23 became more than a symbol. She became a bridge, between species, between timelines, between what had been and what could be. Her presence alone stabilized unstable quantum zones. Her empathy reactivated dormant biospheres. Her voice, when broadcast across the stars, healed minds ravaged by generational trauma. But with every gift she gave, it took something from her. Marla noticed it first. The faint shimmer behind HFY's eyes when she was quiet. The long silences. The way she stared at stars like she was already part of them. "You're fading," Marla said quietly one night, as they stood on the balcony of a rebuilt temple on the living planet. HFY didn't deny it. "I'm not meant to stay," she said. I was the question. You were always the answer. Marla blinked through the sting in her eyes. You don't have to do this alone. I'm not, SIV smiled. Because of you, I never was. And then she stepped into the sky. Not a ship. Not a beam. Just light. As if every part of her had returned to the fabric of the universe, to the code that made stars sing and planets breathe. Across the galaxy, every sentient being looked up in the same moment. And every star blinked once in perfect unison, a goodbye. Marla returned to Earth. Quietly. No parades. No titles. She rebuilt her home in the Rockies. Adopted a few more odd kids, one half-squid from Europa, another who spoke only in radio waves. She taught them to make pancakes, to love, to fight for the forgotten, to never give up. In time, a monument was built, not for SIV, not even for Marla, but for what they proved. That compassion was not weakness. That love was not inefficiency. That sometimes, the most powerful force in the galaxy, was a foster mom who refused to give up on a child everyone else abandoned. Etched on the base of the monument, in 100 languages, were just 5 words. Not today. Not ever again. And above it all, in the sky, one star shined brighter than all the rest. It wasn't on any map. It didn't need to be. Because everyone knew her name. SIV. The child who lived. The girl who healed the stars. The legacy of one woman's unshakable humanity.